The last several days in the Star Wars YouTube community have been very interesting to say the least. And it all started last Wednesday, September 4th, when a group of Disney Star Wars fans decided to get together and coordinate a targeted campaign to get myself, Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, and Gary from Nerdrotic demonetized from YouTube. They said that this has gone on for too long. We can't have these people that don't like these Disney Star Wars shows, that criticize garbage shows like The Acolyte. We can't allow them to continue on this platform. And this was something that was amplified by Lucasfilm-friendly YouTubers. This was something that, once again, clearly was a coordinated campaign. They launched all these posts at exactly the same time, and they were desperate to get us shut down. Unfortunately for them, didn't really work out that way. YouTube rejects apparent organized cancel campaign from Disney Star Wars fans that targeted Nerdrotic, Geeks and Gamers, and yours truly, Ryan Kinel. And of course, the most famous response was to this rewriting Ripley post right here. The same people that for the past 3.5 years have run these targeted campaigns to try to get us deplatformed, they once again took an enormous loss with this response. Thanks for reaching out. Just heard back and confirmed this content is not violative and will remain up. We totally understand you may not agree with the decision, but we reviewed this video very carefully against our policies. Absolutely wrecked. But it is not ending there. As I said, this thing is far from being over. And now the media is pouncing on the story to back up those poor Disney Star Wars fans who had their garbage show canceled, including places like the Mary Sue, Rachel Leishman, the Star Wars fan, demands action from YouTube against racist and sexist fans. And Paul Tassi from Forbes decided to weigh into this as well. Now, certainly one of the things that accelerated this was probably a video that got dropped by Star Wars Theory talking about Star Wars Explained specifically the other day. And I do appreciate him calling that bullshit out for what it is, right? A targeted attack to try to get us demonetized that had absolutely no basis in truth because we didn't violate TOS. Now, I certainly here on this channel, I don't drop any this YouTuber exposed videos or anything like that. I'm not a big fan of those things when it happens, and I don't really advocate that anybody go and downvote Star Wars Explained videos or unsubscribe or whatever. Star Wars Explained can continue making their content. They disagree vehemently from me. Doesn't really bother me all that much, but that has launched this now kind of into the stratosphere in terms of attention. And now you have stuff like this. The Acolyte has caused Star Wars fandom to plunge into civil war, from Paul Tassi. You think the drama of The Acolyte is over? Think again. And now what has been arguments about content of the show has progressed into full-on civil war in the Star Wars fandom community. The two parties that appreciate shows like Acolyte and did not appreciate what seemed to be a coordinated, relentless assault on the show and its actors by YouTubers and their subscribers. They're attempting to demonetize many of those accounts, which they believe are racist or encouraging targeted harassment campaigns. So ironic, right? The only targeted harassment campaign that we have seen is from the people trying to get us demonetized. Have I made statements about The Acolyte and about some of the people involved with it when they, in my opinion, say really stupid shit? Of course I have. Never once have I encouraged anyone else to, go to this person's Instagram or, tell this person they suck. I've never done anything like that. And in fact, anytime it gets brought up, I've encouraged the exact opposite. I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm certainly not coordinating with anybody when I make my videos. But the campaign that we just witnessed, that's a different story. This actually is targeted and coordinated, and there's no doubt about it. But anyway, let's continue on. The other side says they simply hate the show for normal reasons. I like how there was so much context and so much explanation behind your side, Paul Tassi, and not the vast majority of people out there that didn't like the fucking Acolyte. That's the reality. Most people didn't like The Acolyte. They thought it sucked. Bottom line. That's why people didn't watch. That's why the people that did watch thought it was garbage. And that, at the end of the day, is why it was canceled. The YouTubers in question devoted dozens, if not hundreds of videos dedicated to tearing down the show and everyone associated with it each and every week, which led to not just pushback from Acolyte fans, but stars like Amanda Stenberg publicly talking about the racism she experienced. Weird that Amanda Stenberg actually made a diss track and attacked Star Wars fans. Let's not put that in here, though. Got it. Then the show was canceled. Given Disney's, Disney, the decision likely came down to mainly an absurdly high cost, which is very much Disney's fault, and low viewership, though many, including some of the cast, credited the racism and harassment and felt it gave a win to toxic parts of the fandom. Now we enter the current phase, which went, members of the Star Wars community in support of shows like The Acolyte, what garbage shows that no one watches, and its actors banded together to create a movement to try to get a number of specific Star Wars channels demonetized with examples of what they believe was racism and harassment in their videos, which should be against YouTube terms of service. Yeah, the unfortunate part for them is, no, we're not breaking terms of service. We're not breaking community guidelines. Just because you think when criticism is leveled at a person of color, the same type of criticism that has been labeled on a bunch of white people associated with these Disney Star Wars shows as well, from Dave Filoni to Mark Hamill to you name it, for some reason, if it's a person of a different skin color or gender, you claim that that's racism or misogyny. And there, of course, is Rewrite and Ripley, the ones behind this target attack. There is Team YouTube's response. However, once YouTube itself was tagged, the concept was met with an immediate reply 13 minutes later from YouTube that they reviewed the video in question and found it was not in violation and no action would be taken. Let's provide a little more context for this. Them tagging Team YouTube on September 5th was about 24 hours after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these Disney Star Wars Acolyte fans went out there with the same exact message, tagging Team YouTube, getting multiple, dozens and dozens of replies from YouTube, encouraging them to report the videos, encouraging them that they'll look more into it, all of these different things. And of course, a lot of these Disney Star Wars fans celebrating and saying, we've been reporting them for years. You finally have to do something about this. So it's not like this is the only time Team YouTube was tagged about this issue, okay? They had been tagged hundreds and hundreds of times and already replied dozens and dozens of times over the past 24 hours. And this was their subsequent response. This was celebrated immediately by the targeted YouTubers in question. Hey, that's me. Though further investigation reveals it's a pretty generic YouTube auto message, which has been used hundreds of times before. And there's no evidence YouTube took the quite elaborate movement seriously for more than a few minutes or did anything resembling investigation. As I said, you're leaving out a lot of context, Paul Tassi, journalist Paul Tassi. YouTube had been dealing with this stuff and replying to these people for 24 fucking hours before this. And yes, have we seen that message before from Team YouTube? We have. Now, the idea that, oh, they just use that all the time, I went back and counted. They've used that reply 29 times in 2024. Okay, you can go and look. That's somebody that just copy and pasted exactly what they said. But here are all the Team YouTube responses featuring that exact thing. Going back to January, it has been used 29 times in 2024, okay? So it is not like they're constantly spamming that out. And Team YouTube has 3.3 million posts on Twitter. They're replying a lot. They're replying very, very often. Thought I should add that context. It was likely just a bot scraping a video, and what video that was isn't even clear. The one embedded to Twitter, ? That level of abruptness and lack of diligence is not very surprising. Since this happened, fans are now pointed toward people moving on to comment on a black actor's Instagram saying they want the Acolyte treatment, viewing that as a threat to mount a similar movement. This is nuts. Somebody went on a Rings of Power actors on their Instagram and said, you really want the Acolyte treatment, don't you? Meaning, you really want to drive people away from the show so much that it gets canceled. That's what that post means. And bad actors like Paul Tassi and all the fucking freaks that were part of this cancel culture campaign attempt, they are now trying to twist that narrative completely into something else. By the way, Rings of Power has lost half of its audience from season 1 to season 2. They are well on the way to having viewership that would not justify it being renewed. Just as a small aside. The YouTuber side of this has escalated thanks to Star Wars Theory, the largest Star Wars fan channel on the internet, who has been the frequent center point of what is viewed as the toxic part of the fandom. Theory also constantly bashed the Acolyte with its usual "it's bad writing and breaks canon" claims, though it's a long pattern of him moving on from focused Disney Star Wars lore discussion to lambasting much of what Disney has procured. He went off on social media saying things had crossed a line by trying to get these channels demonetized, which goes after people's livelihoods. He just released a video calling out another channel, Star Wars Explained, who had signed off on the demonetization movement, a video which got extremely personal, reviewing his private communications with the channel's owner in the past. Now, I am not a big fan of leaking private messages or private DMs or anything like that. When I saw, Star Wars Explained exposed, I expected like some really heinous stuff. It was more just about, hey, these people, they really just care about views and money. In my opinion, virtually every single YouTuber out there, at least the ones that are doing this for a career, they do care about views. They do care about making money. And I don't think that should really come as a surprise to too many people. Now, if somebody truly is just so obsessed and bitter and jealous because somebody might have more success than them, well, that's a personal problem that you gotta fucking deal with. Everybody on YouTube at one point started out by making videos when they weren't getting paid. They weren't getting anything. For some people, maybe they hoped eventually that would turn into a career. I never expected what I was doing to turn into a career for myself, ever. But it took off and it happened, and I'm blessed to be able to continue talking about things that I'm passionate about while also happening to get paid for it. When it does come to people caring about views and money and things like that, this is what I will say, because every single fucking YouTuber that is doing this for a living, they do care about views, they do care about money. The question you should ask yourself is, do you think that that person is saying these things not because they believe them, but because they think it could get them more views or more money? And you can look at that a few different ways. Do you think that maybe they actually think the Acolyte is garbage, maybe they think a lot of this Disney Star Wars stuff is crap, but they're saying it's good to maintain access, to possibly get these exclusive interviews, to potentially make more money for themselves, or maybe because they think that's a way to get better views? And certainly the opposite can also be true. Maybe somebody who was super positive about some of these things before, and if they saw the way that the wind was shifting, the way the sands are shifting, and they decided to say, you know what, I think maybe I can get more views or more money by saying this thing about it. Like, those are reasons to question what are people's actual motivations. Because when you start to think that a YouTube creator is not being genuine with what they're saying, and you might disagree with them, you might not like their take on a movie or on this story or whatever, but if you think they're being disingenuous, if you don't think they're being authentic, that can be a very, very big problem. That is the beginning of an end for a YouTuber out there when people think you're being fake as fuck for whatever reason, whether it's for access, whether it's for views, whether it's for money, whatever it may be. But that whole video and the back and forth between that now has certainly, just poured gasoline on this fire that's going on right now. So many people are now talking about that. And I have no love for Star Wars Explained, for Alex or Molly. At the same time, I don't encourage anybody to go over there and dislike bomb their videos. I don't encourage anybody to fucking shit all over them on social media. They have, in my opinion, they've exposed themselves by taking part in this campaign to try to get us demonetized. That's the way I personally feel about it. They are already taking hits, and now it's just getting worse. I also did see Eckhart's Ladder, a big Star Wars YouTube channel. I saw him catching some flack for some stuff as well. I just want to say on the record, even though he and I probably disagree politically on everything, we've never talked politics. We always talk Star Wars and family shit. But he's always been a great dude to me from the moment I started YouTube. And he's one of the people that when any of this stuff goes on, whether it's this cancel culture campaign to get us taken off YouTube or other various things that have happened over the years, he's always one of the first people to reach out to me and ask, hey, you doing all right, man? I saw this stuff. It's bullshit. And ask if I need anything. And I'm sure he disagrees vehemently at times about the things that I say or how I feel about these shows and things like that. And I don't know what's gone down throughout his entire history on YouTube, but I'm just saying when it comes to me, the dude has always been a stand-up guy and a great dude. Just wanted to put that out there. The hate for the Acolyte is unlike anything I've seen in Star Wars history, possibly even more than The Last Jedi, which is saying something. It's true that it is worse than The Last Jedi. And do you know why? It's because The Last Jedi was a truly divisive movie. And what I mean by that is you had people that passionately hated the movie. You also had a lot of people that were defending and it really fucking enjoyed the movie. The Acolyte is a different story because, yeah, you have your Renew the Acolyte stands, you have your Disney Star Wars fans, you have some of these Access Lucasfilm YouTubers that are defending the show. But the vast majority of people thought it was absolute garbage. That's the difference. That's why you're seeing so much negativity about it, because guess what? The vast majority of people thought it was shit. There absolutely was an industry created on YouTube dismantling the show each and every week, much more forcefully than anything else before it, even though this We Hate Disney Star Wars crew's been around for a long while. It did, in fact, make talking about the Acolyte online with any semblance of positivity practically impossible without being swarmed by what were often devotees of these channels, if not the YouTubers themselves. Oh my gosh, when I say nice things about the Acolyte, there might be some people on the internet that disagree with me. Crazy. Guess what? I did a watch party with Mahler and Gary on his channel, House of the Dragon, each and every week. And we enjoyed season 2. I thought season 1 was awesome. Season 2, a little bit of a step down, but still really enjoyed a lot of it. Guess what? We got flack from our own audience who said, I don't think this is good. Why do you guys like this? Blah, blah, blah. People are going to disagree with you. Whether you hate something, whether you love something, there's going to be people out there that vehemently disagree with you. That's just the internet. That's the way it is. The Acolyte was almost certainly canceled for an absurdly high budget, reportedly 180 million, and very low viewership, which third-party estimates have documented being lower than any other Star Wars series. Still, the cancellation was absolutely celebrated as a win by this YouTube fan crowd and what they believe is vindication of their hate campaign against the show. Yeah, you know what? When the worst show ever produced by Disney Star Wars, the failure we could see a mile away, not specifically because, well, they cast a black actress. No, instead it was everything that Leslie Headland was saying about the show. It was about the way she went about describing how they chose this story, what they wanted to do, who they wanted to hire, and for what reasons. It was a train wreck that you could see coming down the tracks. And so, yes, when it is finally recognized that this show is a complete and total failure, of course, we're going to take a victory lap of sorts for being right the entire fucking time. If Amanda Stenberg says she experienced lots of racism before and during the airing of the series, she is not lying. If she says this, she's not lying. She also said it was a massive hit. She also said it was because it had such high viewership that she was getting such criticism. Was she not lying then? Because that was obviously not true. It would be very, very different to mount any sort of campaign to prove a giant corporate blob like YouTube that specific Star Wars channels are breaking TOS due to racism or harassment, as evidenced by that 13-minute later auto response. No context provided to that. How about the entire fucking campaign that went on for 24 hours before that, which YouTube replied to over and over and over and over again? Absolutely shameful journalism. Not because it's not true necessarily, but getting anyone other than some keyword searching robot to examine this closely is near impossible. There's also a fine line between what you can prove to YouTube as overt racism or target harassment and people just being awful in general, which is allowed on the platform. There will be likely nothing to stop this large group of YouTubers and their large audiences. I cannot think of other examples of fandom where a toxic portion has simply been wiped off the map in any meaningful way. Maybe the worst offenders, but rarely. It just doesn't happen. It's more pronounced here because Star Wars is one of the worst manifestations of this, other than, say, MCU haters who spend hundreds of videos on their channels going after Brie Larson. Hey, I am the Brie Larson defender. I have been defending Brie Larson. She likes my tweets, for God's sake. So don't lump me with these people. I'm a Brie stan, okay? You cannot rely on Disney to back up its harassed actors like they should. You cannot rely on YouTube to do anything useful here. They're corporations. They care about money above everything else, and they rarely ever listen to fans over issues like this. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. There's nothing we can do, guys. These racists out there, they're just gonna win. Just give up all hope. Holy shit. So yeah, don't have much hope anything here changes. Not that the movement isn't justified given everything that's possible, but any actual result seems effectively impossible. So we are only in the beginning of this. The mainstream media now joining in and having the Disney Star Wars fans' backs in an effort to get us demonetized. That's what the purpose of this is. That's what the purpose of the Mary Sue article is. That's what the purpose of Paul Tassi on Forbes article is to do. Now, of course, he's caged it with, there's probably nothing that'll ever be done. But he absolutely wants more people talking about this in an attempt to get us demonetized. Make no mistake. I will once again say, I think that some of these Star Wars YouTubers involved with this cancel culture campaign, I think they have fucking embarrassed themselves. I think they've exposed themselves, but I don't advocate anybody going and fucking attacking them or disliking their shit or anything, right? They've had it rough enough. They're losing enough subs. They've got enough dislikes. I don't advocate anyone doing that. I am just going to continue to make videos about stuff that I care about, that I see fit to talk about, and put my opinion out there. If you can't handle that, or if maybe you're bitter because you're not as successful for one reason or another, that's a you problem. You're going to have to figure that shit out yourself because we are not going anywhere. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.